The Nintendo 64 takes a spot in my book as one of the best and most overlooked consoles of all time. It had cartridges built like Volvos, it had some of the best exclusive games on the market, and had the support of what used to be one of the best developers on the planet. Rare, as some of you may know and remember, created some absolutely fantastic and game-changing titles for the N64, the most noteworthy being 007 GoldenEye, which went on to set new standards for console first-person shooters. In all Rare's glory though, there was one title that was a commercial failure. Hello everyone, I am RedBeakRaven and welcome to a discussion video on Conker's Bad Fur Day. In this video I'm going to talk about the game in general, the legacy it left behind, what I think actually went wrong with it, and just discuss the potential a sequel or a game similar to this would have in present day gaming. Basically I'm just making a video to get the point across that I want Conker to return. What's that? Project Spark? Never heard of it. Nope. No. That is... you could have done better. So Conker's Bad Fur Day is essentially a hidden gem in N64 history. It got great reviews from both players and critics, and it's a classic. The game obtained a cult following that I'm sure still exists today. Hopefully this video will clarify that at least. If you have to ask why this is the case, then all I will say is go and watch a Let's Play and you will see how unique this game actually is. I honestly cannot think of a title that comes close to this, at least in certain aspects. So for anyone watching that might not know or remember what this game is, Conker's Bad Fur Day is an action platformer that was released in 2001 for the N64. You take control of Conker the Squirrel, who is a heavy drinking anti-hero, I suppose you could say. At first glance, you could, as many have, mistake this game as a title for young audiences, what with its cute art style. But with a biography like his, you can see how that's not the case. Rare, who by the way used to be known as Rareware at the time, was known for its platformers and FPS games. However, their platformers like Banjo and Kazooie were games very much for everyone to enjoy. So Conker's Bad Fur Day may have come as both a shock and a nice surprise to fans of the studio. The game was originally going to be for a family audience, but thanks to early criticism for the game's cuteness and similarities to other Rare titles, it was eventually overhauled. So unlike Rare's other games, Conker's Bad Fur Day was for mature audiences due to its graphic violence, profanity, humour and pop culture references. The inclusion of these features is one of the main reasons for why this game is so good. The gameplay itself was alright, but for me it was what was going on in between and what came afterwards that really mattered. You go through all these platforming, puzzle solving and combat scenarios so that you can be rewarded with cutscenes, amusing events and excellent dialogue. The mature humour in this game was one of the key elements to its success, and it is probably the funniest game I have ever played. The humour alone is probably the reason for why a lot of people enjoyed it, but the gameplay at times was very good. Overall it was okay, but at times it was really fun. On top of the single player experience, the game boasted a 4-player multiplayer mode that could have given you and your friends a couple of hours of entertainment. There were 7 different modes you could choose from, each was more or less unique from the last. You basically had your traditional modes such as capture the flag and deathmatch for example, but they had a Conker's Bad Fur Day twist. There was also bots that you could play against. Remember bots? God, playing multiplayer against AI used to be really good. So the mature and absurd humour was key during the game's development, and it was what really drove the game to be as good as it was. It's almost like that cartoons are not just for kids situation, which is practiced more now than ever, but when it first started out I imagine it was something special for those who first experienced it. One of the key aspects for why the game appealed to older gamers is the lack of traditional platformer item collecting. Abilities were replaced by these cleverly designed context-sensitive pads, which not only gave Conker temporary powers, weapons and the ability to piss all the time, but also served as an information point for players to find out what needs to be done next to progress further. Conker's dialogue itself also did this, which is why it was important to watch cutscenes and listen to what was being said. It was in a way a smart platformer that required a bit more thought to get the hang of. Despite all the mature aspects of the game though, it didn't or wouldn't actually put younger people off from playing it. Although much of the game's humour is something that only older people would fully understand, the game was still fun and amusing to those younger players. I should know, I played the game sometime in 2003 maybe? I mean, I went back in time and played this when I was old enough. Okay, maybe I should have waited a few more years before playing this. Hey, games were different back then, and we aren't idiots, alright? I turned out sort of okay. At least they weren't as politically correct as they are now. Anyways, yes, so Conker's Bad Fur Day had everything going for it in the humour department. It was funny and at many times hilarious. The jokes were clever, the game was just over the top and absurd, and none of it was a problem. It was brilliant, and in the words of Todd Howard, it just worked. The humour was in great abundance and none of it sacrificed quality for quantity. There was something there for everyone. Schoolboy humour, clever jokes, potentially offensive content, fourth wall breaking experiences. The game had it all, and it was definitely not your average perfect Nintendo game. Nintendo, as we all know, has had this family-friendly approach to things. It's their reputation for being dedicated to an audience target that equates to everyone. So when Conker's Bad Fur Day came out of the house, well, you can see straight away how the game might not have had the most easiest launch. Conker's Bad Fur Day was pretty much the antithesis of what Nintendo stood for, and the company chose to stay away from Rare's new title. They didn't bother to promote the game in America, and the publishing rights for Europe were given to THQ. The most common reason for this is that Nintendo didn't want to be responsible for parents accidentally buying this game for their children. My argument for this, however, is first of all, parents are most of the time the only party to blame in situations such as that, and secondly, why do companies think we're all stupid and can't read? Although to be fair, when it's game related, how many of us have gotten the wrong thing from our parents or other family members? So as you might expect, the game was subject to controversy mainly due to Nintendo's reputation, but it got through the censors alright, with the devs only having to censor or remove very small parts of the game. This included, as the video game designer and voice of Conker Chris Seavor stated in an interview years ago, a supposedly very funny cutscene with Pokemon, and there was a joke at the expense of the KKK that had to come out. Apparently Nintendo wasn't a fan of offending a group of racists. What do you do in your spare time, Nintendo? So when I said I'll talk about what I think went wrong with the game, I didn't actually mean what was wrong with the game itself. It wasn't perfect. I mean, its story borders that of what you see in comedy films, which aren't particularly great, or at least most of them, nor sometimes are they really meant to be. The mechanics overall could have been slightly better, and it was possibly held back by the limitations of the N64 cartridge. But the game was great overall and received an excellent reception from critics, but it failed to succeed commercially. As of April 2001, the game sold only 55,000 copies, and that is a horrifying number of sales to see attached to a game so good as this. That's also probably the reason for why the game is so damn expensive to buy now. So here is where I think what went wrong, and this is also based on what many have said the reasons for its poor sales were. So first and foremost, it was clear that Nintendo had no desire to support the game. Shame on them. The second reason is its target audience being only for mature audiences, so people over the age of 17 in America, over the age of 15 in Europe. Yeah, we can handle it. And with Nintendo's reputation, it's more than likely a large number of N64 owners were younger than 15, or it was just overall a family console. The third reason might not be that good a reason at all, but the Nintendo 64 wasn't a failed product, it just didn't sell nowhere near as well as the PlayStation did. The N64 sold just under 33 million units, the PS1 sold over 102 million units. Probably because it was a brand new console chain, the games were on CD-ROMs which were a lot cheaper, the controller was overall a better design, and there are a few other reasons for why the PS1 was a superior console. Primarily because of the potential CD-ROMs had, and the fact Nintendo's licensing fees were much higher, thus causing third-party developers to become more reluctant to bring their games on the N64. Despite how good the PS1 actually was overall, I'd take the N64 over that any day. So had Conker's Bad Fur Day released on multiple platforms, the game probably would have been more successful. That leads me to talk about the fourth reason I think the game was a commercial failure, was because it released towards the end of the N64's life cycle. Surprisingly though, Rare did plan on making a sequel. Straight after the release of Bad Fur Day, they began production on another game called Conker's Other Bad Fur Day. However, in 2002, the end for Rareware came with Microsoft buying the company from Nintendo. Say what you will about both of them now, but you can't deny that Rare nowadays is nothing but a shadow of its former self. A lot of the original developers are no longer there anymore, 30 employees apparently left during the transition period, and Tim and Chris Stamper, the founders of the company, left in 2007. After the Microsoft acquisition, instead of Rare finishing the sequel, they actually remade Conker's Bad Fur Day for the original Xbox, calling it Conker Live and Reloaded. I've never played it, and nor do I want to, because it isn't really the same game, or at least the same experience. For probably some ridiculous reason or another, the remake contained a lot of censorship, and naturally this angered fans of the original, especially when they covered the Great Mighty Poo song in bleeps. How dare you censor shit?
Tickly tickly shitty little tag nut.
So apparently for the sequel, they had a full storyline ready to be displayed in the game, and were very much well into development on it. But in 2008, Microsoft cancelled the bloody thing. Throughout the years since then, there have been hints here and there about what the game could have been, and to be honest, it sounded brilliant. If you want to know more information on that, then a link to the wiki page containing all the info will be in the description below under sources. So you have to give credit to the developers for what they've made. They made an extremely commercially unsuccessful game, but somehow it still lives on. Probably thanks to like-minded YouTubers, various video game articles of gamers looking back on great moments of gaming history, the appearance of Conker in Project Spark, which was an absolute joke, and obviously the more recent Rare Replay compilation. Doesn't that tell you something about the direction Rare is going? They've changed, dramatically, and in my opinion, not for the best.
That way smells a bit pooey.
Now, from the sounds of it, there is a possibility that there could be another Conker game. Whether it would be as good or better is unclear, but regardless, I would love to see this squirrel return in his own game. And as long as the game doesn't have a teen rating stamped on it, come on, make it twice as good, twice as vulgar, with more profanity and clever jokes. Also, keep the variety of British and American accents the game had, as well as the pop culture references. There's nothing quite like a talking gear with a Yorkshire accent.
Why is it everybody's so offensive around here?
Either bring me back me missing cocks, or
You don't have to shout.
I'm dead.
So there is a chance on Rare and Microsoft's front, as long as it's not an exclusive, but there's a chance. However, something in more recent times has really got me excited for the future of gaming. If you don't already know, there is a development team out there called Platonic Games, which consists of several former key members from Rare during the N64 era and the golden era of platformers. They are currently working on a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie titled Yooka-Laylee, and I cannot wait to play this game myself. It looks so good. But what has this got to do with Conker's Bad Fur Day? Well, if these guys not only worked on Banjo-Kazooie but the Conker games as well, then maybe they could create a spiritual successor to Bad Fur Day, and I would support that on Kickstarter within a second of it being announced. If Platonic Games is able to cement its place in the industry, which with how good Yooka-Laylee looks, I think it will, then there is a chance to see a part of that golden era of gaming make a return. I'm telling you, the 90s are back, everyone. I made a video a while ago talking about this. So a Conker's Bad Fur Day spiritual successor, Platonic Games, make it happen and make us proud. So speaking of a game such as this being released nowadays, I don't know how the game would fare today if it was a new release. Well, I bet it would be a success in the eyes of gamers and reviewers, but I would take a good guess that the game would be subject to even more controversy than it was. There would without a doubt be people complaining about it being offensive and politically incorrect and all that bloody rubbish that's holding the industry back. So there are risks, but I think a game such as that would be good for not only gamers craving that nostalgia and to experience something very different, but also the industry itself. Basically, we need more games where humour is the key, and Conker's Bad Fur Day may not be everyone's cup of tea, but it certainly is the funniest game I will ever play and may possibly be the last time we ever see such a game. Only a 90s Rareware could have made a great game that included Scouse accented dung beetles, Nazi-like teddy bears, a sexy sunflower, and a singing pile of shit. Conker's Bad Fur Day is without a doubt a one-of-a-kind game, even if you don't like it. And that, I think, is where I will leave this discussion. Now let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this? Do you want another Bad Fur Day? Or maybe a spiritual successor? Do you agree that we should see more games like this where comedy is the key? Anything you agree or disagree with, let me know. I am really interested in what you have to say about this. So hit the like button if you like this video. You can also follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook. You'll find the links near the bottom of the description. Anyways, that's all from me, so until next time, I'll see you soon. And always, flush the chain.
Right, that's it. Piss off.